Hey guys, and welcome. I'm Christine. I appreciate you stopping by. This has been a great week. You guys have shown me some love. I appreciate it so much. So these are going to be some patriotic DIYs, and my first one here, this is just a frame that I had on hand that I'm not using anymore. I'm kind of getting away from hanging pictures or sitting pictures around so much, and just kind of dedicating them to my hallway space. So I had this on hand. This is a simple black frame. This just came from Walmart. That's the Mainstays brand. So I am going to use one of my Redesign with Prima molds, and this is the Elegant Borders. So I'm going to use my DOS air dry clay, and you guys have said before, I tried to go cheaper and not use the DOS, and no, everybody's right. Please use the DOS. It just works so well for projects. So I do lay my cornstarch, and I put that down with a little artist brush. So that's what's off to the left there. That's just my little container that stays on hand in my craft room. Just brush in and then flip my mold over and get out the excess. Y'all see Bolt just walked away. He comes in my craft room and visits. So I put down, kind of roll my clay into like a snake and then put that into my mold. I do use an artist knife, a palette knife, a paint knife, whatever you want to call it, to help me lay that down and push it into the mold and get the excess off. I found that best for me. Some people use a credit card. Sometimes you can just use your finger. This mold that I'm using is very intricate, delicate, so I wanted to make sure that I got that clay down in there to pick up all those little details. I did end up doing 6 of these. But I didn't use all 6 because you can see on the top and the bottom of the frame, I'm just using one. I don't mind that there's a little gap off to the sides. But on the sides of the frame, I want them all the way to the corners, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to miter these. A lot of people would miter them, but the frame isn't flat. I don't know if you can see that, but it has an angle up to it. And I just didn't know if that would hold good, if that makes sense. So if it would have been flat, I would have taken, and you can actually miter the edges together just like you would do crown molding or anything. You can miter the edges together and make them fit, but I wasn't worried about that. I used Tight Bond, and I just put that on the back. Most of the time I use too much, but I spread it with my finger. You can see me here. You want it to completely cover your mold so that you have a good, strong hold. If you get any excess on your project piece, whatever your project piece may be, just use a wet wipe or your finger and get that excess off, because hanging on top of glue sometimes gets kind of, so you just want to try to get that off. So you can see me here how I place it, and then on the sides I did have to take a little piece from a full one on each side to get it to fit. Now I'm going to let mine sit up for just a little bit. I don't want my molds to completely dry with the clay, because I have found, and other people have said, but I have found from working with these, if you paint them when they're not completely dry, they don't crack as much. Now, I did get some cracking on these, more than some of my larger molds, and I think just because they are so delicate. So just kind of keep that in mind. They really did have a lot going on in this little mold, but it's so pretty, so that's why I'm going to use it. Now, my little cow that I showed you, that is a rice paper, decoupage paper, whatever you want to call it, from Decoupage Central. I love ordering from them. They always have stuff that's seasonal, and it's so cute. So I am going to use him as my little art piece, but I'm not going to use the glass in the frame, because when I'm going to use decoupage papers, I do not use the glass. Now, I didn't show it, but I did go around my frame front and back with 2 coats. If you want a full coverage with this black kind of shiny frame, it would have taken 3. But that is my Folk Art French linen paint. I wanted a neutral color, so that's why I'm doing my frame there. I am coming back with my wet wipe and distressing around the edges. So like I said, you don't do this part if you want full coverage, and then I think you're going to need 3 coats just to make sure that everything's good. When that dries, I am taking my Rub and Buff. I love Rub and Buff. I haven't used it in a little while, so I'm bringing it back out. This gold matches that gold hint in that decoupage paper. So I'm going to go around only on my molds and lay this down, and I spread it out with my finger, and then I just take a wet wipe and wipe it back. Now, some points I did wipe it back too much. I came back with a little more and laid a little more on. I think it would have been pretty without this, but anytime you got a mold, especially something that's very intricate and has a lot of movement in your piece, if you put some wax on it, you could have used dark wax, brown wax, antiquing wax, or the Rub and Buffs. Anytime you put something on it, it just brings out that detail even more. Okay? Now, for my backing, for my decoupage paper, I always have extra cardboard on hand. I use it from my boxes that I get for when I order supplies or whatever. I am going to mount my paper to this extra backing. So I'm just using this piece of paper that came in the frame as a guide and just going to cut it out. So then I've just measured my paper, and then I'm cutting him out. Now we'll let you know if you're using cardboard or any kind of paper with decoupage paper or rice papers, I would suggest to not use a your regular decoupage medium. And when I say that, I mean like your DIY liquid patina, or either your Mod Podge. Because if your cardboard gets wet, it can swell or it can warp. So I just simply use the Elmer's glue stick. Now that's important. Make sure it's the glue stick. Y'all, these things are the best thing to have in your craft room. So make sure you have them. Then when it dried, I put a layer on top. That's my sealant. Let me know what you think about this, but I think he just looks so regal, so appropriate. This frame, you can certainly take this piece out and carry this from season to season and just change up your papers. Alright, second project. I've had this piece on hand for a while. I picked this up from Goodwill. I believe that little tear spot that you see there, I think it had a wood fox. I'm not going to swear to that, but I think it did. I think it's a Hobby Lobby piece is what I'm thinking. So I am going to use it. I'm going to use these show-off stencils from Hobby Lobby, and then this cloth is actually a placemat, and I picked that up last year from Dollar Tree. I haven't been to Dollar Tree locally in a little while, so I'm not sure if they have this particular one in stock, but I know they have something other for July 4th because they always carry a good supply for the big holidays. Anyhow, I'm going to take that little backing off, and I am going to use my gel stain in maple, and I'm going to use this little dauber sponge to lay that stain on, and I'm just going to go completely around the frame, inside and out, and I just did one coat because the gel stains have a good coverage to it. Then I'm going to take my little backing, because I'm going to reuse that, and I am going to glue that placemat to it. So I'm going to take that and use that as a guide. You can see me here, I'm working with this, but I can see through this little back piece to the front of the cloth, and I'm just eyeing where I want that stripe to go, the thicker stripe. I kind of wanted it in the center, so if that makes sense. You can see it. Anyhow, so I'm just going to cut that out. Now that little backing piece is more of a, oh gosh, a silky piece. These placemats, y'all, if you can find them, they make great outdoor pillows. You can spray them with the weatherproofing stuff, and they make great outdoor pillows because they're 2 pieces. But I did cut that off. I didn't need that piece. So I'm simply going to hot glue that down. Then I'm going to take my stencil, and I'm just using the word thankful. These stencils, like I said, are the show-offs line. And they come off of that backer piece, and they have a sticky piece, so you can stick them down to your project. So I'm showing you here, yes, you can stencil on cloth. The cloth will absorb your paint a little more, so you just got to lay your paint on pretty thick. And this is the color Nautical that I'm using here. But just make sure that normally when you're doing stencils on wood, you wouldn't put a whole lot of paint on your stencil brush. If you're doing it on cloth, just remember to lay it down a little thicker. Use a combination of the stippling and the circular motions, same way. And then when you get ready to do your stencil, take it off. Just remember, pull it straight up. You can certainly add a bow, ribbon, or whatever, but sometimes simple is best, and I think this says what it needs to say for our message for July 4th. We are thankful. We should be thankful as a nation. Let me know what you guys think of this. It was simple, but it sends a clear message, and I really do like it. Alright, our last project, I am recycling a letter for my last name, and this was a door hanger that I've used for many years, so I'm just wanting to change it up. Some of my little flowers have fallen off. So I am going to use, again, the color Barn Red for my red, and then the Nautical from Folk Art for my blue. And I did end up coming and painting 2 coats on the front of this, because once I pulled off this old hot glue that stuck very well, it pulled off some of that paint. So I did come back and paint the color Fluff. But now if you buy you need the big wooden letters from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. If you buy those new, of course, you'll skip that step, because the white that's there is going to be your white. We're going to alternate red, white, and blue. So you're just going to see me here. I'm just going to slap this coat on of the white, let that dry. And then I showed that little wooden star. I have that in my supply, just left over. I am going to use that as a template to cut out, and I think I did 5 stars total. So I'm just getting some sketch pad paper, and then I'm just going to lay that down and trace that out. And I guess I forgot how to trace, y'all. It was all over the place. But anyhow, I just traced those out, 5 of them, so I'm not going to show you me painting my way through all of that. And then I'm just going to use my scissors to cut those out. So those are going to be when I mask this off with painter's tape, the colors that are going to be painted, the stripes for the red and the blue, I'm going to lay down these stars once I figure out my placement. I put a little bit of masking tape on the back just to hold them down, and that worked fine. Excuse me. And then with my paint, I used a stippling technique instead of a brush, because I didn't want to pull up the sides of that paper on those stars. And I didn't want my paint to get up underneath and transfer because I want to leave those spaces white. That's going to make more sense when you see how I do it. So I'm just figuring out my placement here for my stripes. So bottom line is where the masking tape is, that's going to remain white. Then everything else is going to be a color. And you can see me here, and I end up moving them around. But I'm just putting a little strip of masking tape, doubling it over, and laying those papers down. And I did the stippling because I don't want to paint the sides, the stripes. That was the easiest way to not let it bleed through. Not the stripe, the stars, and that was the easiest way to not let it bleed through and not get on the sides. So just do a stippling technique with your brush for those. And you'll see me working that here in a little bit. And when I got through with all the colors, I didn't quite let them dry because I want to go ahead and pull up my painter's tape. I feel like if it sits too long, sometimes it bleeds. You just don't get a good line. So don't let your paint fully dry and go ahead and pull up your painter's tape. You're going to have the impressions of the stars wherever you've put them into your blue and white stripes. And I did not put stars up at the top, all around at the top, because we're going to come in, and of course we're going to add some bows. And I'm not the best at making bows. It's kind of hard to explain how to do a bow, but I'm going to show you a technique. You'll kind of see me running through that. My ribbon, my big ribbon with the little truck and the flag, that's so adorable. I got that last year from Dollar Tree. So be on lookout for ribbons from Dollar Tree. Now, none of my ribbons today are wired. So they make pretty bows, but it's easier when you use a wired edge just for your bow to fluff up and sit pretty. But I think it's done pretty, but they're not wired, any of them. So the big thick ribbon with the truck, the fireworks, and the flag, again, that came from Dollar Tree. Going to use a little red and white buffalo check. That came from Dollar Tree. Now, I will say that this ribbon, I got this last year too. It feels kind of plasticky. I'm not sure what this is made of. It doesn't really feel like a cloth. And then the other ribbon, the polka dots with the navy blue, that I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby. I really scored with that one. That is a nice thick ribbon. It is very nice thick ribbon. So I'll be saving that for my better projects. I'm just not going to use that for just anything in the future. But what I did was I'm going to use the thicker ribbon as my bottom, and I'm only going to do a one loop bow. Okay, so you can do the awareness method where you find your center, then you just scrunch it together, and that's your bow. Simple. I like to use my little Dollar Tree clips to hold my bows. And then I'm going to use my little red and white ribbon. And just because it's not the prettiest, I don't want it on top. So it's cute, but just because it's that whatever kind of texture that is, I didn't want it on top. It's like a slick surface. And so then I did a double loop with it and a double loop with my blue. Now, when I'm doing my double loops, what I do is you make one loop, and then you come back over with the other side, make a loop. Then you just keep folding so that the outside edge is out, right? And then you just flip it over so that your tail side is out. You'll see me doing that here in a little bit. And I do use, most of the time I use zip ties or cable ties. Those are easily accessible. I use those to secure everything together. Pull that real taut, and then I'm simply going to hot glue that onto the top of the little hanger here. Now this letter came with an actual hanger indentation on the back, but if it didn't, you could always use another ribbon to hang it with. or you can put you a little hook. Those little triangle hook rings, they're easy to mount. But hot glue would have been fine, but these do come with a little indentation on the back for hanging, so that's perfect. You don't have to hang it. You can use it to sit up. It can certainly be a shelf sitter, and it would be adorable, but I thought this was something that I can use through the season. It's not so gimmicky, but then we are going to be celebrating the 4th, so I am showing my patronage. So I really like it. Let me know what you guys think of today. Let me know if you want to see any more July the 4th. We're only a month out from our celebration, but let me know if you want to see any more. If not, I'm going to be getting back to some more thrift flips, and I'm going to be doing some stuff in my own home, so stay tuned for that. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for hanging around with me. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button and that like button, and throw me some comments. Y'all have a great week.